The American Super Bowl is one of the most watched sporting events in the world. In fact, it is the most watched sporting event in the US. This year's game looks set to be another major event, with the Arizona Cardinals playing their first ever Super Bowl against five-time winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The game will be aired from 11 p.m. this Sunday on TV3, and with us now to give us a preview is Hal Hodson of the Trinity Thunderbolts and Henry Wasserman of the Dublin Rebels. Good morning to you both, guys.
Morning.
Hal, I'm going to come to you first because I kind of knew nothing about American football and still probably know nothing. But when I was out in America, when I was living in America, I loved the Super Bowl because it's the only thing I could compare it to. I was saying to Mark this morning was like when Ireland was in the World Cup in Italy. There is fever for it. People go crazy for it. So for people at home who don't know much about it, can you kind of explain what's going to happen on Sunday night?
Okay, well, it's kind of like a giant festival, really, all across America. Pretty much, half of the whole American population will be tuning in, and there'll be a huge build-up. The game starts late, build-up from 7. Bars, clubs, everything will be focused on the Super Bowl, and I don't really know what to compare it to. Maybe the All-Ireland final, something like that. But yeah, it's just a huge event, and I don't know. It's more of it's almost not even about the sport anymore. I feel it's more about the event, and of course it's a lot about sponsorship. You've got your ad breaks every 30 seconds.
Aren't they the most expensive ad breaks in the world? I think if you want to advertise in those minutes.
I think they are. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm sure they're up there. Yeah.
It is about celebrating the event. It isn't actually about the game, because traditionally the Super Bowl game tends to be pretty one-sided, and although there've been a few close ones, interestingly, this year we might get a pretty decent one. I know that Henry, that the Steelers would be, I suppose, rampant favourites for it because of their history. But the Cardinals, who were formerly the St. Louis Cardinals, they're the oldest franchise in American football, are they? And this is their first appearance.
I don't believe they're the oldest, but they're
one of the founding.
Haven't won a Super Bowl ever, and they do have a good chance this year. I think they're the underdog, and their quarterback Kurt Warner lives on being the underdog, so I think it will be a good game, and I think the Steelers are favored by 7 points, but I think it's going to be close.
That's a fairly close margin in a game, isn't it?
Well, 3 is typically what you see in a close game, a team winning by 3, but I think it's going to be close.
This is a franchise that moved. They were in St. Louis for years. I remember when I started to watch American football, when I started on Channel 4, which was 15 years ago. They were there, and it was one of the old prestige franchises. Then did St. Louis fall out of love with the team? Why did they have to move to Arizona?
Well, it was a lot of politics involved, and back and forth between the owners. But I think in the end, St. Louis did kind of fall out in love with the team. They were kind of the laughing stock of the league for a while, and even this year, huge underdogs, and it's a great story. Nobody thought they had any chance of winning, and here they are in the Super Bowl. So, St. Louis is back. Now they have the Rams, but there's, I think they kind of gave up on the Cardinals, and I think Arizona is going to be kind of rewarded for their taking a chance.
It is a huge source of pride to Americans to have an NFL franchise, isn't it, Hal? I mean, it's sort of a badge that your city is important or has a prestige.
Yeah, and like cities like LA who have lost their franchises, they're looking for them to come back.
But of course, the Rams have gone to St. Louis, and the Raiders are now back in Oakland.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's exemplified perfectly by the fact that they call themselves the world champions. If you win the Super Bowl, you're the world champion. There's no question of any other country in the world possibly, fielding a better team, and it's true.
Well, the history of that is to do with them, is to do with who originally sponsored it, wasn't it? Because it was a paper, and they were called The World, isn't it? So that's why it's. Yeah. So it's a kind of a misnomer. A lot of people say, oh, that's typical American arrogance, considering that their team would be the best in the world. But I believe that's the history of it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But it is quintessentially American. It's quite a good parallel that you drew with the All-Ireland, because no one else does this. This is yours. This is America's thing, and it is fantastic fun to watch, because the game is quite complicated actually. But if you bring like the real basics of rugby to it, you can just about get your head around it. Yeah. That was my, that's how I worked it out, kind of thing. You can follow who's winning and who's losing. Yeah. But it is the pomp and ceremony all around it. Like there's always a big deal about who's going to sing at half-time. Do we know who's singing this year?
Springsteen.
Is it Springsteen?
It is Springsteen.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's always some...
But he has a new album, so it's the biggest platform he's going to get this year. I mean, I don't know what... Now, I'm sure there must be politics involved in who gets to play.
There must be.
Oh, I'd say so. I'd say it's the same kind of deal as the ad breaks.
Yeah.
Definitely big politics going on in there. Yeah.
Okay, you both obviously play the game. So in terms of who you would be backing or shouting for on the night, who will you be plumping for?
I'm going for the Cardinals.
Really?
They're the underdog. They've got a powerful offense, and I think just like there was in Philly a couple of weekends ago, I think there's it was in Arizona, but I think there's going to be an upset. I think the Cardinals are going to, that offense is going to come out running. Kurt's going to get the ball off before the Steelers' aggressive defense can get to him, and I think they're going to put some points on the board.
And this would be the first time they've ever won a Super Bowl if they do it.
That's right.
How big a deal is that?
I mean, it's a huge deal. I guess a comparison from baseball, I grew up on the East Coast, and Boston Red Sox hadn't won for ages, and they just won the World Series a couple of years ago. But the entire city is just waiting and waiting for years and years, and you have 90-year-old people who have been going to the stadium forever, and they're just waiting for their team to be the best. And in Arizona, they're a newer team, but I think you'll see people saying, I've been waiting for this day for 20, 40, 30, 40 years.
Wow.
It makes the franchise as well too, of course, and it makes it so much easier for them to attract better in the draft. People will want to go to the Cardinals. The only thing is that in traditional terms, very hard to see past the Steelers, because what? They've won 5 or 6, is it?
They've won 5, and they're going for their 6th, which would be...
And they were the dominant team of the 70s,
That's right.
and they play a particular type of I don't know, is it blue-collar football? It's tough, it's hard, it's kind of the working man's team.
I've heard it said that that's the way football is supposed to be played by guys on our team, and so that's why they're going for them, because they played football right.
And Henry, who do you think is going to win?
I also think Arizona's going to win. I think we'll see an upset, and Kurt Warner, the old veteran QB, is going to lead his team over the young QB, Ben Roethlisberger.
So go underdogs.
Go underdogs, that's right.
That's it.
Okay, well, listen.
Have a happy Super Bowl, guys.
Indeed.
Thank you.
And don't forget that you can watch the Super Bowl on TV3 this Sunday from 11 p.m.